Good evening. When 83-year-old Kenneth Hugill from East Yorkshire was found not guilty in court, he still ended up with a huge legal bill to pay. Now a campaign has started in his name to get the law changed. It's argued that if somebody is innocent, then their court costs should be paid for them. It took a jury less than half an hour to acquit Mr. Hugill of GBH after he shot an intruder on his farm. With more, here's Sarah Walton.
It was a case that attracted national attention when Kenneth Hugill shot at a car he thought was going to run him over at his farm in Wilberforce. He struck a man in the foot and was charged with grievous bodily harm. It took a jury just 24 minutes to find him not guilty. But in an exclusive interview, he told Look North he was facing legal bills of over £20,000.
I haven't got it. It's as simple as that.
You haven't got the money?
No. I've never done anything wrong. I've never even asked for help, and all this falls on you like a ton of bricks.
The celebrity lawyer Nick Freeman, known as Mr. Loophole, raised money to cover Mr. Hugill's costs and is now campaigning against the change in the law that left him with such a big bill. Before 2012, anybody acquitted of a crime could reclaim their legal costs from the government at a rate set by the government, and most people got back 100% of what they'd spent. But since 2012, only people that are acquitted but didn't qualify for legal aid can reclaim fees. And people are now reimbursed at legal aid rates, meaning most people get back just 25% of their costs. The law was also questioned by former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, Nigel Evans. When he was cleared of sexual offences in 2014, he lost his life savings paying legal fees of over £100,000. And lawyers say it means more people are now taking the risk of representing themselves in court.
The whole idea of this, of course, was cost saving, but it's a false economy because what happens is people who represent themselves take far longer. You end up with people at the Crown Court representing themselves in a completely foreign environment against the power of the state.
The Ministry of Justice has said it can't comment on the issue because of the ongoing election. But in the past, the government has said that the changes have saved about £100 million in the last 5 years and that the system will be reviewed in 2018. Kenneth Hugill has thanked those that helped pay his legal fees, and a petition's been started to change the law so others aren't left in the same situation. Sarah Walton, BBC Look North.
Well, Nick Freeman is the celebrity lawyer who launched that petition calling for a change in the law which would help people who are acquitted to pay their legal bills. I asked him why it is wrong that someone who is cleared has to pay legal costs.
Well, in our English legal system we have a presumption of innocence, and if you're acquitted you should recover your legal costs, your reasonable legal costs in relation to that acquittal. That is natural justice. That has been the situation for a long time. It changed by a statutory instrument in 2012.
Do you think that the government should be paying money which maybe is taxpayers' money and some people can't afford to pay?
I think if you're acquitted, you're an innocent person. I don't think you should be punished financially for that acquittal. I think you are entitled to have a situation which is fair, a situation which won't encourage people to try and represent themselves, or for people simply to say, look, I'm just going to plead guilty because I can't run the risk of a financial burden at the end of it. It's unfair. It's not what our English legal system is about, or should be about.
A solicitor in Hull has said today that more people will represent themselves as a consequence. Isn't that the real reason why you and some of your colleagues are bothered? Because you'll get less work and be paid a fraction of the money when used. Is that a fair comment?
I think it's fair to say that some people will try and represent themselves. It's important to note very few people are actually aware you don't recover your costs. But we find that many people who have tried to represent themselves then come to us when they've made a real hash of it and require legal representation to sort out the mess that they've made. But as I say, most people are currently unaware of the legal system, which is you no longer recover your defence costs as a basic premise.
But on the subject of legal aid, I mean, the budget is huge. There is a lot of austerity at the moment. It's far greater than it is in France and Germany.
Yes, but we don't want to confuse these monies with legal aid funds. We're not talking about legal aid funds now. This doesn't affect the legal aid budget in any way, shape or form. If you are acquitted and you've paid privately for your representation, you recover costs from central funds, which basically it's the taxpayer paying, but it's a completely different fund.
Do you think that this was pushed through without enough consultation and debate in 2012?
Without question it was. That's why it was by statutory instrument, because if there is serious debate and discussion about it, anyone will realise and appreciate that the system is unfair and it's unjust, and that's precisely why they did it in that way.
Have you been amazed and staggered at the generosity of people who've given to Mr. Hugill?
It's heart-rending to see that nearly 1,000 people have contributed to his cause. I took the view that his case would resonate with the public because he was an 83-year-old man who had never had a parking ticket, who had a terrible experience with the English legal system. He's been let down very badly for it. And when an 83-year-old says, I'm now going to be repaying this debt for the next 2 or 3 decades, it's very hard not to have enormous sympathy with him, and the public got behind him, and I'm happy to say every penny of his financial burden has now been discharged.
Mr. Freeman, very good to talk to you tonight. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you very much.
Well, the lawyer Nick Freeman, want to hear your views on this. Do you think it's right that you should have to pay your legal bills if you are found not guilty in the court? Just a reminder of our contact details. Have you had an experience similar to this? Think someone should have to pay if they're cleared? Have the changes been unfair and pushed through? The email address looknorth@bbc.co.uk. Text number is 81333. Start the text with the word Look North as always, or follow me on Twitter, Peter_Levy. Tweet now on that one. We'll have some of those before we finish at 7 o'clock.